Alright, hello everyone, how you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day, and today we are here with a video on the Slayer Trap in Old School RuneScape. This is a video that's very near and dear to my heart because, well, while this account is very well-rounded, I have made accounts in the past that are not and have definitely fallen into the Slayer Trap. Recently, if you aren't aware, I've been working on a maxing account, and that's been very rewarding, but before that, I was prone to do a lot of Slayer, and I mean, definitely enjoyed my time doing it and still do a ton to this day. But this is a video to talk about when Slayer can go bad, and maybe some of you guys are in this trap now, or maybe you might be in the future, and I'll try to help you avoid it if I can. So let's go ahead and get on into it. So whenever you get off of Tutorial Island in Old School RuneScape, whether you know what you're doing or not, you're probably just going to test the waters, kind of move around a bit, and get a lot of your base stats up. Not anything in particular to Slayer. Slayer's kind of more of a med to late game type of skill. But you know, you'll get acclimated with the game, you'll go around and kind of get started. But once you have your base stats, then you're really kind of looking for probably 2 to 3 things, in my opinion, what I think everyone's basically looking at. You want a goal, you want something you can work towards that's going to be rewarding in some sense in the future, and Slayer's very good for that because there are a ton of bosses that you can get late game and a ton of monsters that just drop so much money that people definitely look at that as a nice goal. In addition to that, some people may want money, and Slayer, as we just discussed, that can be offered with it too, and you can even get money early on with stuff like Wilderness Slayer and Konar at very early levels, so a lot of people are enticed there as well. And then lastly, people, I think, want to get up their levels. You know, once you have your base stats, you really want to kind of focus in on something, or at least get your levels up as quick as possible. And with Slayer, you're not only gaining Slayer, you're gaining attack, strength, defense, HP, range, mage, sometimes prayer. You get a lot of stats up. So it is a very easy skill, both for total level and the fact that you get your combat up through that. So it's just such a key to basically about everything in the game that a lot of people start to look towards it for the med game. And understandably so. So the series in which I was showing the account on earlier that I'm working on maxing, I paid membership with bonds at very early game levels. That is not what I assume most people do, so a lot of people, I feel like whenever they start Slayer, they'll go to something like Wilderness Slayer, which I think is really good, or Konar, which I think is a little worse but a lot safer, and they get kind of comforted with the fact that they'll probably get like 100k key about every task they do. In addition, you'll get a ton of points for Slayer, so you just kind of really get a head start on the Slayer skill. You get a lot of money that you just start to see pile up in your bank, and you can see what the Slayer skill can do for your account, and obviously, it's something you like. I mean, most people, whenever they start Slayer, aren't prone to leave it unless they find Slayer to be a bit slow, which it is, but at the same time, you're getting up your combat stats, which a lot of people like doing. So what I would be weary of at this point is staying with these masters too long. While you do like the 100k that you can get per task maybe on the keys and plus the added loot, time is kind of money, so you really should focus on getting some better tasks once you start to get towards the mid-game of Slayer. But for early game, I definitely think Wilderness and the Konar Master are both very good to go to. But if you stay there too long, it can definitely make Slayer quite a lull in your gameplay. And one thing that I think can also kind of make people lull into Slayer is they'll like pick out a level goal. You know, we talked earlier about getting goals. It's very good to set goals, but when you set goals with Slayer, unless you know you can get there, it is sometimes a lot harder than you envision because Slayer is not a skill that goes up very quick, and a lot of the tasks that you can get can make it very slow as well. And so if you don't know what you're doing and how to approach the early game, you can definitely just spend a ton of time just getting to that Slayer level that you liked, and then once you get to that Slayer level, you're only getting that task maybe once per level, and probably not even that often, so you don't even see the rewards, so it can kind of be a bit demoralizing, but that's why I kind of recommend you move away from some of these slower Slayer Masters once you're, you know, trying to go for a level goal, per se. And this can kind of be where it is dangerous. Some people, whenever they go through this early to mid-game Slayer goal that I'm talking about, may only be working on Slayer because Slayer requires so much effort because it's so slow that you may spend all of your time doing that. And if you end up doing that, it's going to set the rest of your account back a lot just because unless you trained other skills first, which you likely didn't, then your combat is so far ahead of everything else that almost any other skill that you do at a low level just seems unrewarding in every way. I made up a list of some things that I think would allude to someone that is stuck in the Slayer Trap at maybe a med game level. And this isn't to say that being in the Slayer Trap is a bad thing. If you play the game the way you like, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to get a full experience of RuneScape, the Slayer Trap can be bad. And what I would say are kind of signs for someone that may be stuck in Slayer is if you're, you know, maybe say 80 Slayer with some of these following traits. no Barrows gloves is usually a sign of one, because that means you just aren't questing on the side. Now, if you're working towards it, I get it if you're close. But if you're sitting there at like 90 quest points or 120 quest points and you're saying, yeah, just a little push, it's not. Maybe not having Ancients would be even a further stretch. Having good gear, say maybe you have some Bandos items, but then you look at your stats and you have like less than, maybe 40 runecrafting or 50 runecrafting. Not having any boss KCs. Now, you don't necessarily have to go out and do bosses, and I don't necessarily even recommend for med levels to go out and do bosses, but it is nice to go out and test out parts of the game to see what you're going to like later in the game. And then after those things that I listed, you just got to evaluate, are you in that trap? Do you have a lot of those attributes? If you do, then you might be in the Slayer trap, and that isn't the worst thing, a trap in which you're getting tons of money and XP. I'd be in that trap. And if you're not in it, then it seems that you're getting kind of a well-rounded experience of the game. And for those of you that may be in the Slayer trap, there's really two ways you can go about it that I would say. The first one is you can go back and kind of round out your account by doing some of the things that I mentioned earlier, rounding out stats, quests, diaries, getting maybe a torso, a fire cape, stuff like that if you haven't got it. Barrows, gloves, all that cool stuff. That stuff is going to help you progress so much more in Slayer later that it's definitely worth getting, and you probably shouldn't spend all of your time on Slayer because you want to definitely boost your account as a whole as well. But if you are someone that literally wants nothing more than to log on RuneScape and kill Slayer monsters all day, which has been me on a couple accounts, so I understand fully. That's okay. That you're gonna enjoy it. You're gonna enjoy the grind of Slayer, but once you start to get into the late game Slayer, and once you start to get close to maybe the 90s, 99s, if you're ever going to actually finish it, once you do, you kind of look at the landscape of the rest of your account and you don't like it at all, and it's pretty demoralizing, I will say. Personally, I've been in that spot, and there's plenty of other people that I've met and talked to in game that are in that spot, and it's just hard because you have such a good account that can make so much money, that can do such cool stuff in regards to Slayer, but then you gotta go get 77 runecrafting and you're only 60, and it's like, man, what did I do? It's just it's fun, but if you're trying to get a full game experience, it's nowhere near what you should be doing, and the earlier you can get out of it, the better if you plan on getting a full game experience. But, I get it. If you got to rush money for some reason, like maybe purchasing bonds or something like that, I can definitely understand. Maybe rushing Slayer a bit more so that you can camp certain monsters for good GP late game. But, if you know that much about the game, you probably know what you're doing. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. This is kind of just a video about things that I've done in the past, mixed in with stories that I've heard, along with maybe what you can avoid. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that, kind of a bit of a different video, and we'll look to do more like these in the future. If you guys did enjoy, make sure to leave a like. Anything you want to tell me, good or bad, let me know in a comment down below. And on top of that, if you want to see more videos like this, as soon as they go live, click that subscribe, or you can hop on over to the Twitch, where I might be streaming RuneScape, but I'm probably streaming COD Warzone because it's fun as hell. And yeah, that's going to be it for me today. Hopefully you guys have a wonderful day, and see you.